History has a funny way of hiding its dark side. We look back and imagine grand castles, elegant gowns, and heroic knights. But scratch the surface, and you'll find a world that was absolutely disgusting by today's standards. Let's start with hygiene. In medieval Europe, bathing was considered dangerous. People believed water opened the pores to disease, so they went months, sometimes years, without washing. Instead of soap, they rubbed themselves with vinegar, urine, or animal fat. The rich masked their stench with heavy perfumes, but underneath, everyone reeked. Even royalty wasn't immune. King Louis XIV of France reportedly bathed only twice in his entire life. His courtiers followed suit, dousing themselves in perfume to cover the smell of sweat, grime, and decay. Speaking of stench, let's talk about toilets. Chamber pots were emptied straight out of windows into the street below. In cities like London and Paris, pedestrians had to dodge falling waste. Some buildings even had designated garderobes, stone holes that dropped directly into rivers or moats. Imagine living above a toilet that never flushes. The streets ran with filth, and in summer, the stench was so unbearable that people carried pomanders, small balls of scented herbs, just to survive walking outside. And the food? It was a nightmare. Meat was preserved by burying it in salt or smoking it until it turned black. Without refrigeration, fish and poultry sat out for days, crawling with maggots. People simply cut around the rotten parts and kept eating. Bread was often stretched with chalk, sawdust, or even ground up bones to make it last longer. In times of famine, bakers added plaster or alum to make bread look white and fluffy. It looked appetizing, but it destroyed your insides. Medicine was somehow even worse. Doctors believed illness was caused by bad humors, so they treated everything by draining blood. Leeches were applied by the dozen. If that didn't work, they might drill a hole in your skull to release evil spirits. Anesthesia didn't exist, so surgeries were performed on wide-awake patients, often in filthy rooms where the surgeon hadn't washed his hands. The same knife might be used on 10 patients in a row, spreading infection with every cut. The survival rate was so low that many people chose to die from their illness rather than face the surgeon. Let's not forget dentistry. Tooth decay was rampant because sugar had just arrived in Europe and people couldn't get enough. When a tooth ached, the dentist, usually a barber or blacksmith, would yank it out with pliers. No numbing. No precision. Just grip, twist, and pray. Sometimes the tooth shattered, leaving jagged roots buried in swollen gums. Infections spread to the jaw and brain, often killing the patient. And yet, people kept eating sugar because it was new, expensive, and irresistible. And here's something truly disturbing. People used to make medicine from dead bodies. Mummia was a popular remedy made from ground-up Egyptian mummies. People drank it, rubbed it on wounds, and believed it could cure almost anything. For centuries, grave robbers supplied a thriving trade in human remains. Fresh execution sites were raided for blood, which was sold as a tonic. Skulls were ground into powder for headaches. Even Charles II of England had his own personal recipe for King's Drops, made from crushed human skull and alcohol. Even fashion had its gross side. Those towering powdered wigs from the 1700s, they were crawling with lice. Rather than wash them, people doused them in lavender oil to mask the smell. Some wigs were even made from the hair of plague victims. And the white face paint fashionable women wore? It was loaded with lead. It made skin pale and beautiful, until it caused paralysis, madness, and death. Women lost their teeth, their hair fell out, and their eyes swelled shut, yet they kept applying it because pale skin meant you were wealthy enough to stay indoors. In Victorian England, sewage systems didn't exist in most homes. Waste collected in cesspools under the floorboards, seeping into drinking water. Cholera outbreaks killed thousands. It wasn't until a doctor traced one outbreak to a single contaminated water pump that cities finally began building proper sewers. Before that, the River Thames was so polluted with human waste that it literally stank up Parliament. Lawmakers had to hang sheets soaked in chloride of lime over the windows just to breathe. And perhaps the most unsettling, child labor wasn't just accepted, it was expected. Children as young as 4 worked in coal mines, crawling through tunnels too small for adults. They cleaned chimneys by climbing inside, breathing soot that scarred their lungs for life. Factory machines crushed fingers and limbs daily. It was simply the cost of industry. Orphans were bought and sold as cheap labor. They slept on factory floors, worked 16-hour shifts, and if they fell asleep, they were beaten or dipped headfirst into water barrels to wake them up. So next time you complain about modern life, remember, at least you're not drinking powdered mummy, dodging chamber pots, or getting your tooth pulled by a blacksmith. History is full of things that were once perfectly normal and utterly revolting. So, which one of these disgusted you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and if you think modern life still has some gross secrets, drop those too, because I might just make a part 2. If you made it this far without losing your lunch, hit that like button and subscribe for more history that school definitely didn't teach you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.